Welcome. Thank you so much for showing up to this interview for the mid-level assistant associate production agent manager position here at the World Wide Wicket company. I'm sorry. That's Are you wearing some? are you wearing some kind of a cologne of some kind? Oh, my eyes are watering. I'm it has a very distinct smell. Uh 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 so we do recommend that in the future, if you can be more toned down with your scents. We don't have a mandatory policy, but it's part of our dress code essentially is to not be distracting to other employees, and that it includes smells. And you have a very strong cologne smell. It's odoriferous. It's smelly, and it's not necessarily unpleasant, I'm sure, but it's powerful, pungent. This is not a big office, and it definitely fills the office. It makes your presence very known, and partly hard to breathe. So in the future, if you could limit your powerful scents just a little, that would be greatly appreciated. We do have some people who are very sensitive to smells and allergies. In fact, there's an entire floor devoted to people with special allergies, and we would make sure to keep you off that floor, because I am positive that whatever smell this is, it would set some people off. I feel like I'm breaking out just being here with you. So yeah. Speaking of dress code as well, the Hawaiian shirt with the buttons unbuttoned, it's not workplace appropriate. We do ask that you have at least have an undershirt on if you're going to have that. It's important to dress more conservatively and modestly than that. Speaking of which, do you it's not like we have a no tattoo policy, but the enormous and extensive sleeves, we do ask that you can sort of keep that covered up, especially since some of that is some of it's political, or could be taken as political, and some of it is just in support of things that we might not necessarily want to be promoting as part of our company culture. Well, you've got a lot of various drug adjacent tattoos or drug supportive tattoos, and we're not saying that we're a drug free space, but especially when you're on the job, it's important that you're not partaking or intaking or inebriated or under the influence of drugs, especially of that sort. I understand that. No, I didn't ask about it. In fact, I'm not supposed to ask about it. It doesn't matter if it's medicinal or not. What's important is that you're not doing it while on the job. That's the critical part. Right. Or in the parking lot, yeah. Or on your break. Essentially, because it's going to be in your system when you start your job. That's the part we don't want. It's not we don't want you under the influence while working here. It doesn't matter if you have a medical reason or not. You can't be working, especially since the mid-level assistant associate production agent manager position doesn't necessarily directly deal with heavy machinery, but it's heavy machinery adjacent enough that it could cause concerns and liability issues. No, we're not saying that it's a disqualification. We're saying don't partake while on the job. Is that something that you can do? Not be doing it while at work or with enough time before your work so that you're not under the influence. I mean, it'd be the same thing with alcohol. Right. No, alcohol isn't illegal, but it is illegal. It will get you fired if you are drinking on the job. Does that make sense? You can't show up to the interview drunk or hungover even. I mean, being hungover, there's a few ways to get around it, but definitely, I'm not saying that no one has shown up hungover and gone away with it. What I'm saying is that it's a bad quality to have to get the job. It can get you fired. It is a fireable offense. We do have a 2-strike policy regarding under the influence and our drug and alcohol policies. We do random drug screen tests. I don't know when they happen. They're random. Right. And I'm glad that you hey, they're very pretty. They're very pretty illustrated tattoos, but what I'm saying is that we'd want them covered up while you're on the job. Does that make sense? All right, cool. I've lost track of where I am. Possibly it's just secondhand. I don't know. Before we proceed, do you have any concerns with this interview being recorded for posterity and future hiring decisions or for legal matters? You do need a sign here to verify your consent to being recorded purely for internal and business purposes only. Yes, you do need to consent to this interview being recorded, especially everything that I've mentioned already so far. Do you need a pen? You've got your own. Okay. All right. And nothing in this interview can't be used externally for promoted purposes without your permission and would require another signature for that to occur. I will be typing down notes and information as well, but lately in our process of going paperless and for more comprehensive data purposes, we have been recording our interviews. So before going forward, I do need you to verbally consent to having this interview recorded. Did I say it too fast? Nothing in this interview can be used externally for promotional purposes without your permission. Do you consent to having this interview recorded? Thank you. All right. Now, we have an extensive interview process at the World Wide Wicket company. It normally consists of 2 to 3 interviews here, and the interview process today should not take more than 30 minutes. Do you have any concerns with that time frame? 30 minutes. Do you have any problems or concerns with that time frame? Great. This is an open interview, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any and all questions relating to this position, of course. Do you have any questions for me at this time before we get started? No, I do not. I have never. I do not inhale. No, I don't take edibles either. I do drink occasionally on the weekend, but that's it. It's in very small doses in moderation. I am what some people might call a teetotaler. Someone who doesn't drink a lot or drink at all. I'm very refrained, especially since I'm on call in this position for human resources. So being on call means that I have to be ready to show up at work at any time. Right. No, this would not be an on-call position most of the time. You would know when you're on call. Occasionally it's on call. So yes, you would have to not be smoking at any time that you're on call because you might have to show up for an emergency. It shouldn't be. It's very, very rarely. Very rare. We can try as much as we can as an accommodation to not have you on call, if that makes sense. Yes, it would be an accommodation. We're making a sort of amendment for you on this position. So even though the position says on call, we could make an accommodation. For medical reasons, because of medical usage of medical drugs. Okay, cool. All right. Your resume has a few blank spots here. In fact, almost all of it. You didn't put anything for education. Did you at least graduated high school, correct? Right. Okay, so you do attend college. Okay, where do you attend college? Please don't tell me that. Just tell me where you went to college. I do not need to know why you are going to college there or what you are selling on campus. Do not need to know that. No, that does not count as sales experience. Yeah, it's life experience, sure, but it's not. Don't put that on your resume as sales experience. I don't care how much money you made. It's not what you want on your resume. You do realize that if you report to me something that could be considered a crime, it is my responsibility to report that as a crime. Right. No, the signature I have is that we won't use it for promotional purposes or outside purposes. However, a criminal case, they could subpoena and take this interview recording as evidence. So, before you say something that incriminates you, I recommend you plead the fifth and you do not say anything that incriminates you of a potential crime. Yes, I know partaking is not, but the sale of on a college campus could be constituted possibly as a crime. Let's not go there. Please don't mention anything about that. Okay? All right. Good. Okay. Where were we? What interested you about this position? What about the position made you think that it was chill or dope? And what gave you the idea that we're laid back and relaxed? So you really didn't do any research into what we do here at all, did you? Okay. Let me just back up and give you a little bit of background information about we here at the World Wide Wicket Company, we pride ourselves as being the industry-leading brand of wickets, from manufacturing, distribution, promotion, operations management, even including research and development. There's no other company that has such comprehensive process of providing the best wickets possible. So here we're trying to fill the very important and critical mid-level assistant associate production agent manager position. The mid-level assistant associate production agent manager. You are just sort of take those words and go backwards on what they do. So you're not the high level, you're the mid-level assistant to the associate production agent manager. So you're not the associate production agent manager, you're their assistant. You're one of their assistants. You're the mid-level assistant, not the executive assistant, the mid-level. So you are assisting the associate production agent manager. So they manage the agents versus the agent production manager, which is the agent that's producing managers, or the manager of the agent production that produces agents. Does that make sense? Have I lost you? Let's just move on a little bit. What does your ideal job look like? Okay, lot of interesting adjectives here. We've got groovy, relaxed, chill. What kind of job do you think would be dope, groovy, relaxed, chill? Okay, and what was the reason for leaving your previous job? Okay, do you think that there would be a concern of you failing another drug screen test here at this location and job? No, you don't do it anymore while at work. Good answer. Now, would you consider yourself a risk taker? Why? I don't need to know that. Don't tell me that. So I'm just gonna say, stop you there before you say anything else. That you're a high octane adrenaline junkie. Okay, that's the only kind of junkie that you are, right? Good. Okay. Do you value time more than money in your personal life? I don't know what that means. That makes no sense. No, I understand that money is sense, but what I mean is that the comment you're making about money makes no sense. No, sense is in S-E-N-S-E, sense, like your senses. Yes, hearing, touch, taste. Yes, those are senses. I don't get what that has anything to do with. No, I never thought about how gravity works and how the world spins around, and no. Theoretically, if you had to take a drug screen test now, would you pass it? You would. That's great to hear. That's not as great to hear. Why do you have a bag of someone else's urine? Why is it in a bag? Why am I even asking that question? No, I never thought about that. No, I never thought of that, how a lighter is a light that gets lighter the more that you light it. No, I never did think about that. How do you manage to being under pressure? Yeah. Can you manage being under pressure? No, that's not what I meant. How do you manage both long-term and short-term stress? But how would you manage it while at work? No, you don't. I mentioned you're not supposed to, and you could get fired. Your employee termination could occur if you are caught imbibing or partaking or intaking or being under the influence while at work. Where we go with that, right? That would be grounds for your coworker then to be terminated. Right. So what would you consider your greatest strengths? See, that's a great answer. Let's stick to that. What would you consider your greatest weaknesses? Okay, I'm just going to put down procrastination there. What would you consider, because you said that you almost didn't show up to this interview because you got high. Right. Yes, because you got high. Because you got high. Yes. Yeah. Because you got high. Okay. How do you stay organized with multiple projects going on at the same time? Peace and love is great, but that doesn't help you manage projects and organizations and deadlines. How do you manage those kinds of things? When you say send the energy out, do you mean like an email of information? What do you mean by vibes? Okay, what do you mean by frequencies? Vibes and frequencies aren't tangible things that you can articulate and actually research and provide data for. So can you give me a tangible way of how you prefer to communicate besides vibes and energy? No, I meant like communicate with a human living person, not the universe. Okay, let's try that. This position involves being the go-between and communicating with multiple departments all at the same time and in multiple different facets through multiple forms of technology. How do you feel about using multiple platforms such as Slack, Google Meet, Teams, email, phone calls, texting all at the same time, managing multiple different platforms of communication and networking between multiple people here at the World Wide Wicket company? The World Wide Wicket company, this is the company that you're interviewing for. You're interviewing for the mid-level assistant production agent manager position here at the World Wide Wicket company. How do you feel about communicating with a bunch of different positions? Well, you see, this position is leadership is critical, as well as communication reporting to multiple different people, such as the associate production agent managers, the lead production agent managers, the executive production agent manager, the executive production manager, the lead agent managers, the executive agent manager, the lead production managers, the assistant to the executive production agent manager, the assistant to the executive agent manager, the assistant to the executive production manager, the lead agent production managers, the executive agent production manager, the assistant to the executive agent production manager, and the chief operating officer. How do you handle communicating with multiple departments, leads, and reporting to different managers and bosses all at the same time while running a team of your own to assist in the management of production agents? Do you have any questions for me? Let me ask you, do you think that this interview went well? I'm going to tell you it did not. Well, for multiple reasons. Would you like me to list the reasons? You didn't clearly answer. You only answered clearly one of my questions with a relatively acceptable answer. Most of these answers are hard to get wrong. You found ways to provide incorrect and wrong answers to these questions. It seems like you're under the influence, partly because you said you were under the influence, and your answers have been not just spacey but absurd. You don't really fit the cultural climate and the company culture that we're trying to create and sustain here at the World Wide Wicket company. You would actually, as much as we love diverse and different perspectives, your perspective is a little out there, sort of like outside of the stratosphere, kind of out there, out of this world. Yes, your mindset has gone beyond what is normal to abnormal, unusual, weird. I'm just saying that when you start talking about vibes and ESP and communicating through your energy and the attitude you present more than an email, I start losing perspective, especially in a position that requires a lot of tangible communication. You also didn't show up on time. That's a big thing. I know you're only a few minutes late, but we do stress punctuality here at the World Wide Wicket company. Showing up a little bit early is on time, really. Do you want me to go on? So thank you so much for interviewing with us today. You should hear back from us in a couple of days. As I mentioned, we have many candidates that are interviewing for this position. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that. You will either receive an email from me or a phone call. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to send me an email. I know that feeling that you sometimes have questions. If you have questions, please send me an email. Happy to answer any questions that you have. If you could leave a comment with the front desk as you leave, I would appreciate that. We do have a little, if you could fill out a survey, that would also be appreciated. Check your inbox and have your phone ready. You should get an email or phone call in a couple of days. Thank you again and have a great week.